Your goal when watching this video is to take the rules that you learned for multiplying and dividing integers and apply them to other rational numbers like fractions and decimals. Okay, so quick review. When you multiply two numbers that have the same sign, like 6 times 2 or negative 6 times negative 2, you are going to get a positive answer. Alright, if you multiply two numbers that have different signs, like negative 6 times positive 2 or positive 2 times negative 6, you are going to get a negative answer. Same goes for division. All right, if you divide two numbers that have positive signs, like 6 divided by 2 or negative 6 divided by negative 2, you are going to get a positive answer. If you divide two numbers with different signs, like negative 6 divided by positive 2 or positive 6 divided by negative 2, you will get a negative answer. All right, so we're going to apply those same rules to fractions and decimals. This is basically a summary of what I just said. All right, so here they are multiplying a negative fraction times a positive fraction. So since those two fractions have different signs, they get a negative answer. In this example below, they're dividing a negative by a positive, so they have different signs and they get a negative answer. Two numbers with different signs always gives you a negative answer. Okay, so let's do a few examples. Negative 5 1/5 divided by 2 1/3, and they estimated that to be negative 5 divided by about 2, which would be negative 2 1/2. Our numbers have different signs, so I should get a negative answer for sure. And I like to go ahead and write my answer down by the answer spot. I like to write my negative so I remember, because all of the other work I am going to do is going to kind of ignore that negative. So I want to make sure it's still in my answer. So when I'm dividing, we're first going to change all my mixed numbers and whole numbers to improper fractions. 5 1/5 becomes 26 fifths, and it's negative. All right, 2 1/3 becomes 7 thirds, and it's positive. Okay, then I'm going to take the reciprocal of the number after the division sign. I'm going to change divide to multiply. Okay, so now I just have an easy multiplication problem. Okay, so negative 26 times 3 over 5 times 7. That gives me negative 78. And 5 times 7 in my denominator gives me 35. All right, your first answer on Edmodo that you submit should be to tell me what the answer to this problem is in simplest form. If it's in simplest form already, leave it as it is. If you can simplify it more, write what it would be in simplest form. Pause if you need time to work that up. All right, multiplying rational numbers. Okay, so again, I'm going to look and I'm going to say, all right, a negative times a positive, I know for sure my answer will be negative. I could estimate this, and I could say, okay, negative 2 1/2, let's round that up to negative 3, times 3 6/10, let's round that up to 4, should be somewhere around the vicinity of negative 12. For sure the negative part. All right, now when you multiply decimals, we're going to line them up vertically. You don't have to line up the decimal point, but in this case it works. It's a negative right there, that's a multiply sign. All right, and I'm just going to multiply as I would with whole numbers. So 6 times 5 is 30. 6 times 2 is 12, plus 3 is 15. My placeholder is 0. Then I'm left with 3 times 5, which is 15. 3 times 2, which is 6, plus 1 is 7. All right, so now I'm going to add these. 5 plus 5 is 10, carry the 1. That's 9. Now, when you multiply with decimals, you need to count the number of decimal places in your factors, or in the numbers being multiplied. So this top number has 1 decimal place, and the second factor has another decimal place. So altogether, I have 2 decimal places in my factors, so I should have 2 decimal places in my product, or my number being multiplied. All right, so 1, 2. All right, and it's negative. So my answer for this should be negative 9. Okay, multiplying more than 2 rational numbers. So in this case, we have a lovely set of 3 numbers being multiplied. Order of operations obviously still applies. So we start with what's in the group. And I have 4 fifths multiplied by negative 7. As a fraction, I could write negative 7 as negative 7 over 1. All right, I'm happy to start with this because it's pretty darn simple. Multiplying, I just multiply my numerators. 4 times negative 7. And multiply my denominators, 5 times 1, I get negative 28 over 5. Okay? Now, I am going to recognize that all of this is equal to this. So I still have to multiply by this. So negative 1 7 times negative 28 fifths. All right, first I'm going to recognize that I'm multiplying a negative times a negative, so my answer should definitely be positive. All right, I would like you to do the work for this one. Make sure that your fraction is positive and then that you write it in the simplest form. That should be the second answer that you submit on Edmodo as proof of watching this video. Okay, so finish multiplying that out, write your answer in simplest form, submit it as number 2 on your video. All right. The best for last. Okay. An investor owns stocks A, B, and C. What is the mean change in the value of stocks? So stocks are things you can purchase with your own money that hopefully grow in value so that they're worth more than you paid for them when you're ready to cash in. So if I buy a stock for 10 bucks, hopefully in 50 years when I want to take out my money, all right, it's worth a lot more than 10 bucks and I get paid more than 10 bucks for it. All right, so an investor owns stocks A, B, and C. Here they are. What is the mean change in the value of stocks? So originally these stocks, the first one was $600.54. The second one was about $400, and the last one was about $380. Okay, so this is the purchase, or this is the price when this investor bought these stocks. That's how much he paid. Now, here is their current value. So the thing about stocks is they can go up or they can go down. All right, so it's a risk, it's a gamble. Then this last thing just shows what is the change. So from the original value of $654 to $420, this stock went down or decreased in value by $180. All right, this stock increased in value and this stock decreased in value. So what is the mean change in the value of the stocks? Remember to find the mean or the average. That means you take everything we have, you take all of this change, you find out how much change it was total, all right, and then you redistribute it so it's fair. So if every stock using these numbers changed the same amount, how much would each one change? That's what the mean means. So first thing is to add up those numbers. What's that last one? Good thing I circled it. You can't read it. 280, 52. All right. I am going to, since adding is commutative and numbers can move order and still get the same answer, I'm going to add my negatives first. Okay? So I have 280, 52, and 180, 39. This is going to tell me how much my stock went down total. Right? So I'm adding those two sets of negatives to see how much my stock went down. So when you add, remember it's important to line up the decimals. 9, 10, 11, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Drop the decimals down, 0, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so altogether my stock went down by $460.91, but this stock right here went up a little bit. All right, so now I'm going to ask myself, okay, what is negative $460.91 plus positive $127.28? All right, am I going to have more negatives or more positives when I add these together? I'm going to have more negatives, so my answer should be negative. Okay, so I'm going to say if I have 460.91 negatives, all right, and I cancel out 127 of those, because I have 127, about 127 positives that can cancel with 127 of those negatives, how many negatives will I have left? So in this case, I'm going to need to borrow. 11 minus 8 is 3, 8 minus 7 is 1. Need to borrow again. All right, 10 minus 7 is 3, 7 minus 2 is 5, 4 minus 1 is 3. All right, and then I remember this is a negative. After I cancel my negatives with positives, I have 353 negatives and 13 hundredths. All right, so if we added up all the change in our stocks, we'd be down $353.13. Now, we still need to divide that by how many stocks we have. So we need to divide that by 3. And that is your job. That'll be your third answer that you submit on Edmodo. What is negative $353.13 divided by 3? That'll tell us our mean change in stocks.